Hi everyone, and welcome to a quick review of lines in the coordinate plane. In this video, we're going to look at the two forms of linear functions, and we're going to do some examples. So let's look at those two forms first. The two forms for linear functions are point-slope form and slope-intercept form. Now, point-slope form is always going to be in this format: y minus the y value from your point equals the slope times x minus the x value from the given point. Now, the green x and y need to be replaced along with this blue m. Okay, they need to be replaced with numbers. Everything in black is going to stay just as it is, and you do not simplify this form. This is exactly how it should look. Now, for slope-intercept form, you have y equals m, which is the slope, times x, plus b, where b represents the y-intercept of the function. So basically, in order to write the equation for a linear function, you need a point. So it's either going to be a starting point, like an xy pair, or you need a y-intercept. And then you also need a slope. So if you don't have a point and a slope, there's nothing you can do to write this linear function without more investigation. So let's take a look at some examples. We're going to start with some examples in point-slope form. The first part of this question says to write an equation in point-slope form for the line that contains the point, 2, 3, and the slope of 2. So we just need to remember what point-slope form says, and then we fill in the numbers we've been given. Let's take a look at that. Point-slope form says y minus y1, and the y1 is the y value of this point. So I'm going to replace that with the 3. And then it equals m, which is the slope, so the slope was 2, times x minus x1, the x value of the point. So this became a 2. So my answer is y minus 3 equals 2 times x minus 2. Now, the next part of the question says write an equation in point-slope form for the line that passes through the points 2, 3, and 4, 7. So in this one, we're given 2 points, but we don't have a slope. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the slope formula to find the slope, and then we'll put things in point-slope form. So what I did is I took the y value of the second point and I put it over its x value, so 7 over 4, and then it's subtracted by the y value of the first point over the y value, the x value of the first point. So when you subtract, you get 4 over 2, which is 2. So this is my slope. Now, when you're writing the point-slope form, you can choose either of these 2 points to put into the format. So there are actually 2 answers to this question. Both answers are acceptable. So you can either write y minus 3 equals 2 times x minus 2, or you can write y minus 7 equals 2 times x minus 4. Now, the one thing you're not allowed to do is mix between the 2 points. So you can't pair up the 7 with the 2 over here. That's not allowed. You have to pick a point and put it in. So let's take a look now at some examples of slope-intercept form. The first part of the question says to write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line that has a slope of 1/2 and a y-intercept of -3. So just like we did in that first question on the previous one, all we need to do is recall the slope-intercept form equation, and then we just need to plug in the values that we've been given. Okay, the general form is y equals the slope times x plus the y-intercept. So when I plug in the numbers I've been given, I write y equals 1/2 times x minus 3. Now notice I didn't do plus -3. I just simplified those signs, and you're always allowed to do that. So now let's take a look at one where we have to do a little algebra. In this one, it says write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line that passes through the points 2, 3, and 4, 7. Now, we haven't been given a slope. And remember, these names actually tell you what you need in order to get your final answer. You need a slope and a y-intercept. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to calculate the slope first. So I did 7 minus 3 over 4 minus 2. And again, I took the y value over its own x minus the y value over its own x, and I got 2 here. Now, I don't have the y-intercept, and there are actually two ways to do this. And I'm going to show you my favorite way. I have a point and I have a slope, and that sounds like point-slope form. I know that's not what we need right now, but that's what it sounds like, so that's what I'm going to use. So watch what I'm going to do. I started out by putting it in point-slope form. Now I'm just going to use a little algebra to get my y alone. So I need to distribute the 2 first. So I got 2x minus 4 on the right side. And then I need to add the 3 to the other side to get my y alone. And this is in the format I need, because it's y equals slope times x, and then plus the y-intercept of -1. Okay, so the next thing we're going to take a look at is how to graph. So when you're graphing, you need a starting point and you need a slope to tell you where to go from that starting point. So in this case, I've been given y equals 2x plus 1. Now the slope is 2 and the y-intercept is 1. So we're going to start at the y-intercept and then use the slope to find more points. So I started here at +1, and then the slope is 2. That means rise 2 and run 1. So I went up 2 and to the right 1, or right 1 and up 2. Now I always recommend getting more than 2 points, more than just this one and this one that you got with the slope. I always recommend finding a few points, because just in case you count wrong, and if you connect with the ruler, you'll see your mistake. So let's do one last graphing question. In this one, we're given a point-slope form equation. So just like we did last time, we're going to find a point from this and a slope. The slope is easy to see. It's 3/2. But the point is a little harder. Remember, it's x minus the x value. So the x value is 5. And this is supposed to be y minus the y value. But it says a plus here. So that means you have to change the sign. So it's -2 for the y value. So we have the point 5, -2, and a slope of 3/2. So I start by graphing the point 5, -2, and I put a dot here. And then I use my slope to find another point. So rise 3 and run 2. And like I said earlier, I always recommend getting at least 3 points on this line, so when you connect it with a ruler, you can tell if you counted wrong. But this is the final answer for the question. So let me know if you have any questions, and hopefully this helped you remember some things that we learned in Algebra 1.